Introduction and Dramatis Personae for Troades by Lucius Annaeus Seneca, translated by Frank Justus Miller. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Introduction. The long and toilsome siege of Troy is done. Her stately palaces and massive walls have been overthrown, and lie darkening the sky with their still smouldering ruins. Her heroic defenders are either slain or scattered seeking other homes in distant lands. The victorious Greeks have gathered the rich spoils of Troy upon the shore. Among these, the Trojan women, who have suffered the usual fate of women when a city is sacked. They await the lot which shall assign them to their Grecian lords and scatter them among the cities of their foes. All things are ready for the start. But now the ghost of Achilles has risen from the tomb and demanded that Polyxena be sacrificed to him before the Greeks shall be allowed to sail away. And Calchas also bids that Astyanax be slain, for only thus can Greece be safe from any future Trojan war. And thus the Trojan captives, who have so long endured the pains of war, must suffer still this double tragedy. Dramatis Personae. Agamemnon, king of the Greek forces in the war against Troy.
Read by Greg Giordano.
Pyrrhus, son of Achilles, one of the active leaders in the final events of the war.
Read by Beeswax Candle.
Ulysses, king of Ithaca, one of the most powerful and crafty of the Greek chiefs before Troy.
Read by Adrian Stevens.
Calchas, a priest and prophet among the Greeks.
Read by Algie Pug.
Talthybius, a Greek messenger.
Read by Larry Wilson.
An old man faithful to Andromache. Read by Alan Mapstone. Astyanax, little son of Hector and Andromache.
Read by Yankel.
Hecuba, widow of Priam, one of the Trojan captives.
Read by Wendy Katzhiller.
Andromache, widow of Hector, a Trojan captive.
Read by Agnes Robert Bear.
Helena, wife of Menelaus, king of Sparta, and afterwards of Paris, a prince of Troy, the exciting cause of the Trojan War.
Read by Shrimpfish.
Messenger.
Read by Robert Cheney.
Chorus of captive Trojan women.
Read by DC.
By Rapunzelina. By Winifred Assman.
Narration by Alan Mapstone. The scene is laid on the seashore, with the smouldering ruins of Troy in the background. The time is the day before the embarkation of the Greeks on their homeward journey. End of introduction and Dramatis Personae. Act 1 of Troades by Lucius Annaeus Seneca, translated by Frank Justus Miller. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Act 1. Hecuba.
Whoe'er in royal power has put his trust, and proudly lords it in his princely halls, who fears no shifting of the winds of fate, but fondly gives his soul to present joys, let him, my lot and thine, O Troy, behold. For of a truth did fortune never show in plainer wise the frailty of the prop that doth support a king, since by her hand brought low, behold, proud Asia's capital, the work of heavenly hands, lies desolate. From many lands the warring princes came to aid her cause, from where the Tanis his frigid waves in sevenfold channel pours, and that far land which greets the newborn day, where Tigris mingles with the ruddy sea his tepid waves, and where the Amazon, within the view of wandering Scythia, arrays her virgin ranks by Pontus shores. Yet here, o'erthrown, our ancient city lies, herself upon herself in ruins laid. Her once proud walls in smouldering heaps recline, mingling their ashes with our fallen homes. The palace flames on high, while far and near the stately city of Assaracus is wrapped in gloomy smoke. Yet e'en the flames keep not the victor's greedy hands from spoil. And Troy, though in the grasp of fiery death, is pillaged still. The face of heaven is hid by that dense, wreathing smoke. The shining day, as if o'erspread by some thick, lowering cloud, grows black and foul beneath the ashy storm. The victor stands with still, unsated wrath, eyeing that stubborn town of Ilium, and scarce at last forgives those 10 long years of bloody strife. Anon, as he beholds that mighty city, though in ruins laid, he starts with fear, and though he plainly sees his foe o'ercome, he scarce can comprehend that she could be o'ercome. The Dardan spoil is heaped on high, a booty vast, which Greece in all her 1,000 ships can scarce bestow. Now witness, ye divinities whose face was set against our state, my fatherland in ashes laid. And thou, proud king of Troy, who in thy city's overthrow hast found a fitting tomb, thou shade of mighty Hector, in whose proud strength abiding Ilium stood. Likewise ye thronging ghosts, my children all, but lesser shades, whatever ill has come, whatever Phoebus' bride with frenzied speech, though all discredited, hath prophesied, I, Hecuba, myself foresaw, what time, with unborn child o'erweighed, I dreamed a dream that I had borne a flaming brand. And though, Cassandra-like, I told my fears, my warnings, like our Cassandra's words in after time, were all in vain. 'Tis not the Ithacan, nor yet his trusty comrade of the night, nor that false traitor Sinon, who has cast the flaming brands that wrought our overthrow. Mine is the fire, 'tis by my brands ye burn. But why dost thou bewail the city's fall with ancient gossip's prattle? Turn thy mind, unhappy one, to nearer woes than these. Troy's fall, though sad, is ancient story now. I saw the horrid slaughter of the king, defiling the holy altar with its stain, when bold Aeacides, with savage hand entwined in helpless Priam's hoary locks, drew back his sacred head and thrust the sword hilt buried in his unresisting side. And when he plucked the deep-driven weapon back, so weak and bloodless was our aged king, the deadly blade came almost stainless forth, whose thirst for blood had not been satisfied by that old man just slipping o'er the verge of life. Whom would not heavenly witnesses restrain from crime? Who would not stay his hand before the sacred altar, last resort of fallen thrones? Yet he, our noble Priam, the king, and father of so many kings, lies like the merest peasant, unentombed. And though all Troy's aflame, there's not a brand to light his pyre and give him sepulture. And still the heavenly powers are not appeased. Behold the urn, and subject to its lot, the maids and matrons of our princely line, who wait their future lords. To whom shall I, an aged and unprized allotment, fall? One Grecian lord has fixed his longing eyes on Hector's queen. Another prays the lot to grant to him the bride of Helenus. Antenor's spouse is object of desire, and e'en thy hand, Cassandra, hath its suitor. My lot alone they deprecate and fear. And can ye cease your plaints? O captive throng, come beat upon your breasts, and let the sound of your loud lamentations rise anew, the while we celebrate in fitting wise Troy's funeral. Let fatal Ida, seat of that ill-omened judgment, straight resound with echoes of our pitiful refrain.
Chorus.
Not an untrained band to tears unknown thou callest to grief, for our tears have rained in streams unending through the years, since the time when the Phrygian guest arrived at the friendly court of Tyndaris, sailing the sea in his vessel framed from the sacred pines of Cybele. 10 winters have whitened Ida's slopes, so often stripped for our funeral pyres. 10 years have ripened the waving grain, which the trembling reaper has garnered in from wide Stygian harvest fields. But never a day was without its grief, never a night but renewed our woe. Then on with the wailing and on with the blows, and thou, poor fate-smitten queen, be our guide, our mistress in mourning. We'll obey thy commands, well trained in the wild liturgy of despair.
Then, trusty comrades of our fate, unbind your tresses, and let them flow over your shoulders bent with grief, the while with Troy's slow cooling dust ye sprinkle them. Lay bare your arms, strip from your breasts their covering, why veil your beauty? Shame itself is held in captive bonds. And now let your hands wave free to the quickening blows that resound to your wailings. So now are you ready, and thus it is well. I behold once more my old-time Trojan band. Now stoop and fill your hands. 'Tis right to take her dust at least from fallen Troy. Now let the long-pent grief leap forth, and surpass your accustomed bounds of woe. Oh, weep for Hector, wail and weep.
Our hair in many a funeral torn we lose, and o'er our streaming locks Troy's glowing ashes lie bestrewn. From our shoulders the veiling garments fall, and our breasts invite the smiting hands. Now, now, O grief, put forth thy strength. Let the distant shores resound with our mournings, and let Echo, who dwells on the slopes of the mountains, repeat all our wailings, not after her wont, with curt iteration returning the end. Let earth hear and heed, let the sea and the sky record all our grief, Then smite, O ye hands, with the strength of frenzy, batter and bruise, with crying and blows and the pain of the smiting. O weep for Hector, wail and weep.
Our hero, for thee the blows are descending, on arms and shoulders that stream with our blood. For thee our brows endure rough strokes, and our breasts are mangled with pitiless hands. Now flow the old wounds, reopen anew, that bled at thy death, the chief cause of our sorrow. O prop of our country, delayer of fate, our Ilium's bulwark, our mighty defender, our strong tower wast thou. Secure on thy shoulders our city stood, leaning through 10 weary years. By thy power supported, with thee hath she fallen. Our country and Hector united in doom. Now turn to another the tide of your mourning. Let Priam receive his due meed of your tears.
Receive our lamentings, O Phrygia's ruler. We weep for thy death, who wast twice overcome. Not once did Troy suffer, while thou didst rule o'er her. Twice fell her proud walls from the blows of the Grecians, and twice was she pierced by great Hercules' darts. Now all of our Hecuba's offspring have perished, and the proud band of kings who came to our aid. Thy death is the last, our father, our ruler, struck down as a victim to Jove the Almighty, all helpless and lone, a mute corpse on the ground.
Nay, give to another your tears and your mourning, and weep not the death of Priam our king. But call ye him blessed the rather, for free. To the deep world of shadows he travels, and never upon his bowed neck the base yoke shall he bear. No proud sons of Atreus shall call him their captive. No crafty Ulysses his eyes shall behold. As boast of their triumphs he shall not bear onward in humble submission their prizes of war. Those free, royal hands to the sceptre accustomed shall never be bound at his back like a slave, as he follows the car of the triumphing chieftain, a king led in fetters, the gaze of the town.
Hail Priam the blessed, we all do proclaim him. For himself and his kingdom he rules yet below. Now through the still depths of Elysium's shadows, midst calm happy spirits, he seeks the great Hector. Then hail, happy Priam, hail all who in battle have lost life and country, but liberty gained.
End of Act 1. Act 2 of Troades by Lucius Annaeus Seneca, translated by Frank Eustace Miller. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Act 2. Talthybius.
Alas, 'tis thus the Greeks are ever doomed, to lie impatient of the wind's delay, whether on war or homeward journey bent.
Tell thou the cause of this the Greek delay. What god obstructs the homeward leading paths?
My soul doth quake, and all my limbs with fear do tremble. Scarce is credence given to tales that do transcend the truth, and yet I swear with my own eyes I saw what I relate. Now with his level rays the morning sun just grazed the summits of the hills, and day had vanquished night, when suddenly the earth, mid rumblings hidden, deep and terrible, to her profoundest depths convulsive rocked. The tree-tops trembled, and the lofty groves gave forth a thunderous sound of crashing boughs, while down from Ida's rent and rugged slopes the loosened boulders rolled. And not alone the earth did quake. Behold, the swelling sea perceived its own Achilles drawing near, and spread its waves abroad. Then did the ground asunder yawn, revealing mighty caves, and gave a path from Erebus to earth. And then the high-heaped sepulchre was rent, from which there sprang Achilles' mighty shade. In guise as when in practice for thy fates, O Troy, he prostrate laid the Thracian arms, or slew the son of Neptune, doomed to wear the swan's white plumes. Or when amidst the ranks in furious battle raging, he the streams did choke with corpses of the slain, and Xanthus crept sluggishly along with bloody waves. Or when he stood as victor in his car, plying the reins and dragging in the dust great Hector's body and the Trojan state. So there he stood and filled the spreading shore with wrathful words. Go, get you gone, ye race of weaklings, bear away the honours due my names. Loose your thankless ships and sail across my seas. By no slight offering did ye aforetime stay Achilles' wrath, and now a greater shall ye pay. Behold, Polyxena, once pledged to me in life, must by the hand of Pyrrhus to my shade be led, and with her blood my tomb bedew. So spake Achilles, and the realms of day he left for night profound, re-seeking Dis. And as he plunged within the depths of earth, the yawning chasm closed and left it no trace. The sea lies tranquil, motionless. The wind its boisterous threats abates, and where but now the storm-tossed waters raged in angry mood, the gentle waves lap harmless on the shore, while from afar the band of Tritons sounds the marriage course of their kindred lord.
Exit. Enter Pyrrhus and Agamemnon.
Now that you homeward fare, and on the sea your joyful sails would spread, my noble sire is quite forgot, though by his single hand was mighty Troy o'erthrown. For though his death some respite granted to the stricken town, she stood but as some sorely smitten tree that sways uncertain, choosing where to fall. Though even now ye seek to make amends for your neglect, and haste to grant the thing he asks, 'tis but a tardy recompense. Long since the other chieftains of the Greeks have gained their just reward. What lesser prize should his great valour claim? Or is it naught that, though his mother bade him shun the war, and spend his life in long inglorious ease, surpassing even Pylian Nestor's years, he cast his mother's shamming garments off, confessing him the hero that he was? When Telephus, in pride of royal power, forbade our progress through his kingdom's bounds, he stained with royal blood the untried hand that young Achilles raised. Yet once again he felt the self-same hand in mercy laid upon his wound to heal him of its smart. Then did Aegeon, smitten sore, behold his city taken, and his realm o'erthrown. By equal fortune fell Lyrnessus' walls, for safety perched upon a ridgy height, whence came that captive maid, Briseis fair. And Chrysa, too, lies low, the destined cause of royal strife. And Tenedos, and the land which on its spreading pastures feeds the flocks of Thracian shepherds, Skyros. Lesbos, too, upon whose rocky shore the sea in twain is cleft, and Scylla, which Apollo loved. All these my father took, and eke the towns whose walls Caicus with his vernal flood doth wash against. This widespread overthrow of tribes, this fearful and destructive scourge that swept through many towns with whirlwind power, this had been glory, and the height of fame for other chiefs. 'Twas but an incident in great Achilles' journey to the war. So came my father, and such wars he waged while but preparing war. And though I pass in silence all his other merits, still would mighty Hector's death be praise enough. My father conquered Troy. The lesser task of pillage and destruction is your own. 'Tis pleasant thus to laud my noble sire, and all his glorious deeds pass in review. Before his father's eyes did Hector lie, of life despoiled. And Memnon, swarthy son of bright Aurora, goddess of the dawn, for whose untimely death his mother's face was sicklied o'er with grief, while day was veiled in darkness. When heaven-born Memnon fell, Achilles trembled at his victory. For in that fall he learned the bitter truth that even sons of goddesses may die. Then mongst our latest foes, the Amazons, fierce maidens, felt my father's deadly power. So if thou rightly estimate his deeds, thou owest Achilles all he can ask, e'en though he seek from Argos or Mycenae some high-born maid. And dost thou hesitate and haggle now, inventing scruples new, and deem it barbarous to sacrifice this captive maid of Troy to Peleus' son? And yet for Helen's sake didst thou devote thy daughter to the sacrificial knife. I make in this no new or strange request, but only urge a customary right.
'Tis the common fault of youth to have no check on passion's force, while others feel alone the sweeping rush of this first fire of youth. His father's spirit urges Pyrrhus on. I once endured, unmoved, the blustering threats of proud Achilles, swollen with power, and now my patience is sufficient still to bear his son's abuse. Why do you seek to smirch with cruel murder the illustrious shade of that famed chief? 'Tis fitting first to learn within what bounds the victor may command, the vanquished suffer. Never has for long unbridled power been able to endure, but lasting sway the self-controlled enjoy. The higher fortune raises human hopes, the more should fortune's favourite control his vaulting pride, and tremble as he views the changing fates of life, and fear the gods, who have uplifted him above his mates. By my own course of conquest have I learned that mighty kings can straightway come to naught. Should Troy or throne exalt us overmuch? Behold, we stand today whence she has fallen. I own that in the past too haughtily have I my sway o'er fallen chieftains borne, but thought of fortune's gift has checked my pride, since she unto another might have given these self-same gifts. O fallen king of Troy, thou makest me proud of conquest over thee. Thou makest me fear that I may share thy fate. Why should I count the sceptre anything but empty honor and a tinsel show? This sceptre one short hour can take away, without the aid, perchance, of countless ships and 10 long years of war. The steps of fate do not for all advance with pace so slow. For me, I will confess, 'tis with thy grace, O land of Greece, I speak. I have desired to see the pride and power of Troy brought low, but that her walls and homes should be o'erthrown in utter ruin have I never wished. But a wrathful foe, by greedy passion driven, and heated by the glow of victory, within the shrouding darkness of the night, cannot be held in check. If any act upon that fatal night unworthy seemed, or cruel, 'twas the deed of heedless wrath, and darkness, which is ever fury's spur, and the victorious sword, whose lust for blood, when once in blood imbued, is limitless. Since Troy has lost her all, seek not to grasp the last poor fragments that remain. Enough, and more has she endured of punishment, but that a maid of royal birth should fall, an offering upon Achilles' tomb, bedewing his harsh ashes with her blood, while that foul murder gains the honored name of wedlock, I shall not permit. On me the blame of all will come, for he whose sin forbids not when he can, commits the sin.
Shall no reward Achilles' shade obtain?
Yea, truly, all the Greeks shall sing his praise, and unknown lands shall hear his mighty name. But if his shade demand a sacrifice of outpoured blood, go take our richest flocks, and shed their blood upon thy father's tomb. But let no mother's tears pollute the rite. What barbarous custom this, that living man should to the dead be slain in sacrifice? Then spare thy father's name the hate and scorn which by such cruel worship it must gain.
Thou, swoln with pride so long as happy fate uplifts thy soul, but weak and spent with fear when fortune frowns, O hateful King of Kings, is now thy heart once more with sudden love of this new maid inflamed? Shalt thou alone so often bear away my father's spoils? By this right hand he shall receive his own. And if thou dost refuse and keep the maid, a greater victim will I slay, and one more worthy Pyrrhus' gift. For all too long from royal slaughter hath my hand been free, and Priam asks an equal sacrifice.
Far be it from my wish to dim the praise that thou dost claim for this most glorious deed. Old Priam slain by thy barbaric sword, thy father's suppliant.
I know full well my father's suppliants, and well I know his enemies. Yet royal Priam came and made his plea before my father's face. But thou, o'ercome with fear, not brave enough thyself to make request, within thy tent didst trembling hide, and thy desires consign to braver men, that they might plead for thee.
But of a truth no fear thy father felt, but while our Greece lay bleeding, and her ships with hostile fire were threatened, there he lay, supine and thoughtless of his warlike arms, and idly strumming on his tuneful lyre.
Then mighty Hector, scornful of thy arms, yet felt such wholesome fear of that same lyre, that our Thessalian ships were left in peace.
An equal peace did Hector's father find when he betook him to Achilles' ships.
'Tis regal thus to spare a kingly life.
Why then didst thou a kingly life despoil?
But mercy oft doth offer death for life.
Doth mercy now demand a maiden's blood?
Canst thou proclaim such sacrifice a sin?
A king must love his country more than child.
No law the wretched captive's life doth spare.
What law forbids not, this let shame forbid.
'Tis victor's right to do whate'er he will.
Then should he will the least who most can do?
Dost thou boast thus from whose tyrannic reign of 10 long years but now the Greeks I freed?
Such heirs from Skyros?
Thence no brother's blood.
Hemmed by the sea.
Yet that same sea is ours. But as for Pelops' house, I know it well.
Thou base-born son of maiden's secret sin, and young Achilles, scarce of man's estate.
Yea, that Achilles who by right of birth claims equal sovereignty of triple realms. His mother rules the sea to Achaeus. The shades submit to mighty Jove the heavens.
Yet that Achilles lies by Paris slain.
But by Apollo's aid who aimed the dart, for no god dared to meet him face to face.
I could have checked thy words and curbed thy tongue, too bold in evil speech. But this my sword knows how to spare. But rather let them call the prophet Calchas, who the will of heaven can tell. If fate demands the maid, I yield.
Enter Calchas.
Thou who from bounds didst loose the Grecian ships, and bring to end the slow delays of war, who by thy mystic art canst open heaven, and read with vision clear the awful truths which sacrificial viscera proclaim, to whom the thunders roll, the long, bright trail of stars that flash across the sky, reveal the hidden things of fate, whose every word is uttered at a heavy cost to me. What is the will of heaven, O Calchas? Speak, and rule us with the mastery of fate.
The Greeks must pay the accustomed price to death, ere on the homeward seas they take their way. The maiden must be slaughtered on the tomb of great Achilles. Thus the rite perform. As Grecian maidens are in marriage led by other hands unto the bridegroom's home, so Pyrrhus to his father's shade must lead his promised bride. But not this cause alone delays our ships. A nobler blood than thine, Polyxena, is due unto the fates. For from yon lofty tower must Hector's son, Astyanax, be hurled to certain death. Then shall our vessels hasten to the sea, and fill the waters with their 1,000 sails.
Exeunt. When in the tomb the dead is laid, when the last rites of love are paid, when eyes no more behold the light, closed in the sleep of endless night, survives there aught can we believe? Or does an idle tale deceive? What boots it then to yield the breath, a willing sacrifice to death, if still we gain no dreamless peace, and find from living no release? Say, do we dying end all pain? Does no least part of us remain? When from this perishable clay the flitting breath has sped away, does then the soul that dissolution share, and vanish into elemental air? Whate'er the morning sunbeam knows, whate'er his setting rays disclose, whate'er is bathed by ocean wide, in ebbing or in flowing tide, time all shall snatch with hungry greed, with mythic Pegasian speed. Swift is the course of stars in flight, swiftly the moon repairs her light. Swiftly the changing seasons go, while time speeds on with endless flow. But than all these, with speed more swift, toward fated nothingness we drift. For when within the tomb we're laid, no soul remains, no hovering shade. Like curling smoke, like clouds before the blast, this animating spirit soon has passed. Since naught remains, and death is naught but life's last goal, so swiftly sought, let those who cling to life abate their fond desires and yield to fate. And those who fear death's fabled gloom bury their cares within the tomb. Soon shall grim time and yawning night in their vast depths engulf us quite. Impartial death demands the whole, the body slays, nor spares the soul. Dark Tanara and Pluto fell, and Cerberus, grim guard of hell. All these but empty rumours seem, the pictures of a troubled dream. Where then will the departed spirit dwell? Let those who never came to being tell. End of Act 2. Act 3 of Troades by Lucius Annaeus Seneca, translated by Frank Justus Miller. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Act 3. Enter Andromache, leading the little Astyanax.
What do ye here, sad throng of Phrygian dames? Why tear your hair and beat your wretched breasts? Why stream your cheeks with tears? Our ills are light, if we endure grief that tears can soothe. You mourn a Troy whose walls but now have fallen. Troy fell for me long since, when that dread car of Peleus' son urged on at cruel speed, with doleful groanings 'neath his massive weight, dragged round the walls my Hector's mangled corpse. Since then, o'erwhelmed and utterly undone, with stony resignation do I bear whatever ills may come. But for this child, long since would I have saved me from the Greeks, and followed my dear lord. But thought of him doth check my purpose and forbid my death. For his dear sake there still remaineth cause to supplicate the gods, and added care. Through him the richest fruit of woe is lost, the fear of naught, and now all hope of rest from further ills is gone. For cruel fate hath still an entrance to my grieving heart. Most sad his fear, who fears in hopelessness.
What sudden cause of fear hath moved thee so?
Some greater ill from mighty ills doth rise. The fate of fallen Troy is not yet stayed.
What new disasters can the fates invent?
The gates of deepest Styx, those darksome realms, lest fear be wanting to our overthrow, are opened wide, and forth from lower Dis the spirit of our buried foremen comes. May Greeks alone retrace their steps to earth, for death at least doth come to all alike. That terror doth invade the hearts of all, but what I now relate is mine alone, a terrifying vision of the night.
What was this vision? Speak, and share thy fears.
Now kindly night had passed her middle goal, and their bright zenith had the bears o'ercome. Then came to my afflicted soul a calm, long since unknown, and o'er my weary eyes for one brief hour did drowsy slumber steal, if that be sleep, the stupor of a soul forspent with ills, when suddenly I saw before mine eyes the shade of Hector stand. Not in such guise as when, with blazing torch, he strove in war against the Grecian ships, nor when all stained with blood in battle fierce, against the Danai, he gained true spoil from that famed Peleus' son. Not such his face, all flaming with the eager battle light, but weary, downcast, tear-stained like my own, all covered o'er with tangled bloody locks. Still did my joy leap up at the sight of him, and then he sadly shook his head and said, "Awake from sleep, and save our son from death. O faithful wife, in hiding let him lie, as only can he life and safety find. Away with tears, why dost thou mourning make for fallen Troy? I would that all had fallen. Then haste thee, and to safety bear our son, the stripling hope of this our vanquished home, wherever safety lies." So did he speak, and chilling terror roused me from my sleep. Now here, now there, I turned to my fearful eyes. Forgetful of my son, I sought the arms of Hector, there to lay my grief in vain, for that elusive shade, though closely pressed, did ever mock my clinging fond embrace. O son, true offspring of thy mighty sire, sole hope of Troy, sole comfort of our house, child of a stock of too illustrious blood, too like thy father, thou such countenance my Hector had, with such a tread he walked, with such a motion did he lift his hands, thus stood he straight with shoulders proudly set, and thus he oft from that high noble brow would backward toss his flowing locks. But thou, O son, who camest too late for Phrygia's help, too soon for me, will that time ever come, the happy day when thou, the sole defence and sole avenger of our conquered Troy, shall raise again her fallen citadel, recall her scattered citizens from flight, and give the fatherland and Phrygians their name and fame again. Alas, my son, such hopes consort not with our present state. Let the humble captive's fitter prayer be mine, the prayer for life. Ah me, what spot remote can hold thee safe? In what dark lurking place can I bestow thee and abate my fears? Our city, once in pride of wealth secured, and stained on walls the gods themselves had built, well known of all, the envy of the world, now deep in ashes lies, by flames laid low, and from her vast extent of temples, walls, and towers no part, no lurking place remains, wherein a child might hide. Where shall I choose a covert safe? Behind the mighty tomb, wherein his father's sacred ashes lie, whose massive pile the enemy has spared. This did old Priam rear in days of power, whose grief no stinted sepulture bestowed. And to his father let me trust the child. But at the very thought, a chilling sweat invades my trembling limbs, for much I fear the gruesome omen of the place of death.
In danger, haste to shelter where ye may. In safety choose.
What hiding place is safe from traitors' eyes?
All witnesses remove.
What if the foe inquire?
Then answer thus: he perished in the city's overthrow. This cause alone ere now hath safety found for many from the stroke of death, belief that they have died.
But scanty hope is left, too huge a weight of race doth press him down. Besides, what can it profit him to hide, who must his shelter leave and face the foe?
The victor's deadliest purposes are first.
What trackless region, what obscure retreat shall hold thee safe? Oh, who will bring us aid in our distress and doubt? Who will defend? O thou, who always didst protect thy own, my Hector, guard us still. Accept the trust which I in pious confidence impose, and in the faithful keeping of thy dust may he in safety dwell, to live again. Then, son, betake thee hither to the tomb. Why backward strain, and shun that safe retreat? I read thy nature right. Thou scornest fear, but curb thy native pride, thy dauntless soul, and bear thee as thine altered fates direct. For see what feeble forces now are left, a sepulchre, a boy, a captive band. We cannot choose but yield us to our woes. Then come, make bold to enter the abode, the sacred dwelling of thy buried sire. If fate assist us in our wretchedness, 'twill be to thee a safe retreat. If life the fates deny, thou hast a sepulchre.
The boy enters the tomb, and the gates are closed and barred behind him. Now do the bolted gates protect their charge? But thou, lest any sign of fear proclaim where thou hast hid the boy, come far away.
Who fears from near at hand hath less of fear, but if thou wilt, take we our steps away.
Ulysses is seen approaching. Now check thy words awhile, thy mourning cease, for hither bends the Ithacon his course. Andromache, with a final appealing look toward the tomb.
Gone deep, O earth, and thou my husband rend to even greater depths thy tomb's deep cave, and hide the sacred trust I gave to thee within the very bosom of the pit. Now comes Ulysses, grave and slow of tread. Methinks he plotteth mischief in his heart.
Enter Ulysses.
As harsh fate's minister, I first implore that, though the words are uttered by my lips, thou count them not my own. They are the voice of all the Grecian chiefs, whom Hector's son doth still prohibit from that homeward voyage so long delayed, and him the fates demand. A peace secure the Greeks can never feel, and ever will the backward-glancing fear compel them on defensive arms to lean, while on thy living son, Andromache, the conquered Phrygians shall rest their hopes. So doth the augur Calchas prophesy. Yet, even if our Calchas spake no word, thy Hector once declared it, and I fear lest in his son a second Hector dwell. For ever doth a noble scion grow into the stature of his noble sire. Behold, the little comrade of the herd, his budding horns still hidden from the sight. Full soon with arching neck and lofty front he doth command and lead his father's flock. The slender twig, just lopped from parent bough, its mother's height and girth surpasses soon, and casts its shade abroad to earth and sky. So doth a spark within the ashes left leap into flame again before the wind. Thy grief, I know, must partial judgment give. Still, if thou weigh the matter, thou wilt grant that after 10 long years of grievous war, a veteran soldier doth well to fear still other years of slaughter, and thy Troy still unsubdued. This fear one cause alone doth raise, another Hector. Free the Greeks from dread of war, for this and this alone our idle ships still wait along the shore. And let me not seem cruel in thy sight, for that, compelled of fate, I seek thy son. I should have sought our chieftain's son as well. Then gently suffer what the victor bids.
Oh, that thou wert within my power to give, thy son, and that I knew what cruel fate doth hold thee now, snatched from my eager arms, for thou dost lie. Then, though my breast were pierced with hostile spears, and though my hands with chains were bound, and scorching flames begirt my sides, thy mother's faith would ne'er betray her child. O son, what place, what lot doth hold thee now? Dost thou with wandering footsteps roam the fields? Wast thou consumed amid the raging flames? Hath some rude victor revelled in thy blood? Or by some ravening beast hast thou been slain, and liest now a prey for savage birds?
Away with feigned speech, no easy task for thee to catch Ulysses. 'Tis my boast that mothers' snares and even goddesses I have overcome. Have done with vain deceit. Where is thy son?
And where is Hector too? Where aged Priam, and the Phrygians? Thou seekest one, thy quest includes them all.
By stern necessity thou soon shalt speak what thy free will withholds.
But safe is she who can face death, who ought and longs to die.
But death brought near would still thy haughty words.
If 'tis thy will, Ulysses, to inspire Andromache with fear, then threaten life, for death has long been object of my prayer.
With stripes, with flames, with lingering pains of death, shalt thou be forced to speak against thy will. What now dost thou conceal, and from thy heart its inmost secrets bring? Necessity doth often prove more strong than piety.
Prepare thy flames, thy blows in all the arts devised for cruel punishment, dire thirst, starvation, every form of suffering. Come, rend my vitals with the sword's deep thrust. In dungeon, foul and dark, immure, do all a victor full of wrath and fear can do, or dare. Still will my mother's heart, inspired with high and dauntless courage, scorn thy threats.
This very love of thine which makes thee bold doth warn the Greeks to counsel for their sons. This strife from home remote, these 10 long years of war, and all the ills which Calchas dreads, would slight appear to me, if for myself I feared. But thou dost threat Telemachus.
Unwillingly, Ulysses, do I give to thee or any Grecian cause for joy. Yet must I give it, and speak out the woe, the secret grief that doth oppress my soul. Rejoice, O sons of Atreus, and do thou, according to thy wont, glad tidings bear to thy companions. Hector's son is dead.
What proof have we that this thy word is true?
Be thy proud victor's strongest threat befall, and bring my death with quick and easy stroke. May I be buried in my native soil, may earth press lightly on my Hector's bones, according as my son, deprived of light, amidst the dead doth lie, and to the tomb, consigned, hath known the funeral honours due to those who live no more.
Ulysses joyfully.
Then are the fates indeed fulfilled, since Hector's son is dead, and I with joy unto the Greeks will go, with grateful tale of peace at last secure.
Ulysses aside.
But stay, Ulysses, this rash joy of thine. The Greeks will readily believe thy word. But what dost thou believe? His mother's oath? Would then a mother feign her offspring's death, and fear no baleful omens of that word? They omens fear who have no greater dread. Her truth hath she upheld by straitest oath. If that she perjured be, what greater fear doth vex her soul? Now have I urgent need of all my skill and cunning, all my arts, by which so oft Ulysses hath prevailed. For truth, though long concealed, can never die. Now watch the mother, note her grief, her tears, her sighs. With restless step, now here, now there, she wanders, and she strains her anxious ears to catch some whispered word. 'Tis evident she more by present fear than grief is swayed. So must I ply her with the subtlest art.
Ulysses to Andromache.
When others mourn, 'tis fit in sympathy to speak with kindred grief. But thou, poor soul, I bid rejoice that thou hast lost thy son whom cruel fate awaited. For 'twas willed that from the lofty tower that doth remain alone of Troy's proud walls he should be dashed, and headlong fall to quick and certain death.
Andromache aside.
My soul is faint within me, and my limbs do quake, while the chilling fear congeals my blood.
Ulysses aside.
She trembles. Here must I pursue my quest. Her fear betrayeth her. Wherefore this fear will I redouble.
Ulysses to attendants.
Go in haste, my men, and find this foe of Greece, the last defence of Troy, who by his mother's cunning hand is safe bestowed, and set him in our midst.
Ulysses pretending that the boy is discovered.
'Tis well, he's found. Now bring him here with haste.
Ulysses to Andromache.
Why dost thou start and tremble? Of a truth thy son is dead, for so hast thou declared.
Oh, that I had just cause for dread! But now my old habitual fear instinctive starts. The mind oft-times forgets a well-conned woe.
Now, since thy boy hath shunned the sacrifice that to the walls was due, and hath escaped by grace of better fate, our priest declares that only can our homeward way be won if Hector's ashes scattered o'er the waves appease the sea, and this his sepulchre be levelled with the ground. Since Hector's son has failed to pay the debt he owed to fate, then Hector's sacred dust must be despoiled.
Andromache aside.
Ah me, a double fear distracts my soul. Here calls my son, and here my husband's dust. Which shall prevail? Attest ye, heartless gods, and ye my husband's shades, true deities, naught else. O Hector, pleased me in my son, save only thee. Then may he still survive, to bring thine image back to life in me. Shall then my husband's ashes be defiled? Shall I permit his bones to be the sport of waves and lie unburied in the sea? Or rather let my only son be slain? Canst thou, mother, see thy helpless child to awful death given up? Canst thou behold his body whirling from the battlements? I can. I shall endure and suffer this, provided only, by his death appeased, the victor's hand shall spare my Hector's bones. But he can suffer yet, while kindly fate hath placed his sire beyond the reach of harm. Why dost thou hesitate? Thou must decide whom thou wilt designate for punishment. What doubts harass thy troubled soul? No more. Is Hector here? Oh, say not so. I feel he is both here and there. But sure am I that my child is still in life, perchance to be the avenger of his father's death. But both I cannot spare. What then, O soul, save of the tomb, whom most the Greeks do fear?
Ulysses aside.
Now must I force her answer.
Ulysses to Andromache.
From its base will I this tomb destroy.
The tomb of him whose body thou didst ransom for a price.
I will destroy it, and the sepulchre from its high mound will utterly remove.
The sacred faith of heaven do I invoke, and just Achilles' plighted word. Do thou, O Pyrrhus, keep thy father's sacred oath.
This tomb shall soon lie level with the plain.
Such sacrilege the Greeks, though impious, have never dared. 'Tis true the sacred fanes, e'en your favouring gods ye have defiled. But still your wildest rage hath spared our tombs. I will resist and match your warrior's arms with my weak woman's hands. Despairing wrath will nerve my arm, like the fierce Amazon, who wrought dire havoc in the Grecian ranks, or some wild Maenad, by the god overcome, who Tyrrhus armed doth roam the trackless glades, with frenzied step and clean of sense bereft, strikes deadly blows but feels no counterstroke. So will I rush against ye in defence of Hector's tomb, and perish if I must, an ally of his shade.
Ulysses to attendants.
Do ye delay, and do a woman's tears and empty threats and outcry move you? Speed the task I bid.
Andromache struggling with attendants.
Destroy me first. Oh, take my life instead.
The attendants roughly thrust her away.
Alas, they thrust me back. O Hector, come, break through the bands of fate, upheave the earth, that thou mayst stay Ulysses' lawless hand. Thy spirit will suffice. Behold, he comes. His arms he brandishes, and firebrands hurls. Ye Greeks, do ye behold him, or do I, with solitary sight, alone behold?
This tomb and all it holds will I destroy.
Andromache aside, while the attendants begin to demolish the tomb.
Ah me, can I permit the son and sire to be in common ruin overwhelmed? Perchance I may prevail upon the Greeks by prayer, but even now those massive stones will crush my hidden child. Oh, let him die in any other way and anywhere, if only father crush not son, and son no desecration bring to father's dust.
Andromache casts herself at the feet of Ulysses.
A humble supplicant at thy knees I fall, Ulysses. I who never yet to man have bent the knee in prayer, thy feet embrace. By all the gods, have pity on my woes, and with a calm and patient heart receive my pious prayers. And as the heavenly powers have high exalted thee in pride and might, the greater mercy show thy fallen foes. Whate'er is given to wretched suppliant is loaned to fate. So mayst thou see again my faithful wife. So may Laertes live to greet thee yet again. So may thy son behold thy face, and more than that thou canst pray, excel his father's valour in the years of old Laertes. Pity my distress, the only comfort left me in my woe. Is this my son?
Produce the boy, and pray.
Andromache goes to the tomb and calls to Astyanax.
Come forth, my son, from the place of thy hiding, where thy mother bestowed thee with weeping and fear.
Astyanax appears from the tomb. Andromache presents him to Ulysses.
Here is the lad, Ulysses. Behold him, the fear of thy armies, the dread of thy fleet.
Andromache to Astyanax.
My son, thy suppliant hands upraise, and at the feet of this proud lord bend low in prayer, nor think it base to suffer the lot which our fortune appoint. Put out of mind thy regal birth, thy aged grandsire's glorious rule of wide domain, and think no more of Hector, thy illustrious sire. Be captive alone, bend the suppliant knee, and if thine own fate move thee not, then weep by thy mother's woe inspired.
Andromache to Ulysses.
That older Troy beheld the tears of its youthful king, and those tears prevailed to stay the fierce threats of the victor's wrath, the mighty Hercules. Yea, he, to whose vast strength all monsters had yielded, who burst the stubborn gates of hell, and o'er that murky way returned. Even he was overcome by the tears of a boy. Take the reins of the state, the prince, he said. Reign thou on thy father's lofty throne, but reign with the sceptre of power and truth. Thus did that hero subdue his foes, and thus do thou temper thy wrath with forbearance, and let not the power of great Hercules only be model to thee. Behold at thy feet, as noble a prince as Priam of old, pleads only for life. The kingdom of Troy let fortune bestow where she will.
Ulysses aside.
This woe-struck mother's grief doth move me sore, but still the Grecian dames must more prevail, unto whose grief this lad is growing up.
Andromache, hearing him.
What? These vast ruins of our fallen town, to very ashes brought, shall he uprear? Shall these poor boyish hands build Troy again? No hopes indeed hath Troy, if such her hopes. So low the Trojans lie, there's none so weak that he need fear our power. Doth lofty thought of mighty Hector nerve his boyish heart? What valour can a fallen Hector stir? When this our Troy was lost, his father's self would then have bowed his lofty spirit's pride. For woe can bend and break the proudest soul. If punishment be so, some heavier fate let him endure upon his royal neck. Let him support the yoke of servitude. Must princes sue in vain for this poor boon?
Not I, but Caucus doth refuse thy prayer.
O man of lies, artificer of crime, by whom in open fight no foe is slain, but by whose tricks and cunning, evil mind, the very chiefs of Greece are overthrown. Dost thou now seek to hide thy dark intent behind a priest and guiltless gods? Nay, nay, this deed within thy sinful heart was born. Thou midnight prowler, brave to work the death of this poor boy, dost dare at length alone to do a deed, and that in open day.
Ulysses' valour do the Grecians know full well, and all too well the Phrygians. But we are wasting time with empty words. The impatient ships are tugging at their chains.
But grant a brief delay, while to my son I pay the rites of woe, and sate my grief with tears and last embrace.
I would 'twere mine to spare thy tears, but what alone I may, I'll give thee respite and a time for grief. Then weep thy fill, for tears do soften woe.
Andromache to Astyanax.
O darling pledge of love, thou only stay of our poor fallen house, last pang of Troy. O thou, whom Grecians fear, O mother's hope, alas too vain, for whom, with folly blind, I prayed the war and praises of his sire, his royal grandsire's prime of years and strength. But God hath scorned my prayers. Thou shalt not live to wield the sceptre in the royal courts of ancient Troy, to make thy people's laws, and send beneath thy yoke the conquered tribes. Thou shalt not fiercely slay the fleeing Greeks, nor from thy car in retribution drag, Achilles' son, the dart from thy small hand thou ne'er shalt hurl, nor boldly press the chase of scattered beasts throughout the forest glades. When the sacred lustral day is come, Troy's yearly ritual festal games, the charging squadrons of the noble youth, thou shalt not lead, thyself the noblest born, nor yet among the blazing altar fires, with nimble feet the ancient sacred death at some barbaric temple celebrate, while horns swell forth swift-moving melodies. O mode of death far worse than bloody war, more tearful sight than mighty Hector's end, the walls of Troy must see.
Now stay thy tears, for mighty grief no bound or respite finds.
Small space for tears, Ulysses, do I ask. Some scanty moments yet, I pray thee grant, that I may close his eye, though living still, and do a mother's part.
Andromache to Astyanax.
Lo, thou must die, for though a child, thou art too greatly feared. Thy Troy awaits thee. Go in freedom's pride, and see our Trojans, dead, yet unenslaved.
Oh, mother, mother, pity me and save.
My son, why dost thou cling upon my robes, and seek the vain protection of my hand? As when the hungry lion's roar is heard, the frightened calf for safety presses close its mother's side, but that remorseless beast, thrusting away the mother's timid form, with ravenous jaws doth grasp the lesser prey, and crushing drag it hence. So shalt thou too be snatched away from me by heartless foes. Then take my tears and kisses, O my son, take these poor locks, and full of mother's love, go speed thee to thy sire, and in his ear speak these, thy grieving mother's parting words. If still thy manes feel their former cares, and on the pyre thy love was not consumed, why dost thou suffer thy Andromache to serve a Grecian lord? O cruel Hector, why dost thou lie in careless indolence? Achilles has returned. Take once again these hairs, these flowing tears, which still remain from Hector's piteous death, this fond caress, and rain of parting kisses take for him. But leave this cloak to comfort my distress, for it, within his tomb and near his shade, hath lain enwrapping thee. If to its folds one tiny mote of his dear ashes clings, my eager lips shall seek it till they find.
Thy grief is limitless. Come, break away, and end our Grecian fleet's too long delay.
Ulysses leads the boy away with him. Chorus.
Where lies the home of our captivity? On Thessaly's famed mountain heights, where Tempe's dusky shade invites? Or Phthia, sturdy warrior's home? Or where rough Thracian's cattle roam? Iolcos, mistress of the main? Or Crete, whose cities crowd the plain? Where frequent flow Mothonis' rills, beneath the shade of Itys' hills? Whence came Alcides' fatal bow, twice destined for our overthrow? But whither shall our alien course be sped? Perchance to Pleuron's gates we go, where Dian's self was counted foe. Perchance to Troezen's winding shore, the land which mighty Theseus bore. Or Pelion, by whose rugged side the Armada ascend the giants' stride. Here, stretched within his mountain cave, once Chiron to Achilles gave the lyre, whose stirring strains attest the warlike passions of his breast. What foreign shore our homeless band invites? Must we our native country deem, where bright Caristus' marbles gleam, where Chalcis breasts the heaving tide, and swift Euripus' waters glide? Perchance unhappy fortune calls to bleak Gonoesus' wind-swept walls. Perchance our wondering eyes shall see Eleusin's awful mystery, or Elis, where great heroes strove to win the Olympic crown of Jove. Then welcome, stranger lands beyond the sea, let breezes waft our wretched band, where'er they list, to any land. If only Sparta's cursed state, to Greeks and Trojans common fate, and Argos never meet our view, and bloody Pelops' city too, may we ne'er see Ulysses' isle, whose borders share their master's guile. But thee, O Hecuba, what fate, what land, what Grecian lord await?
End of Act 3. Act 4 of Troades by Lucius Annaeus Seneca, translated by Frank Eustace Miller. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Act 4. Enter Helen. Helen aside.
Whatever wedlock bred of evil fate is full of joyless omens, blood and tears, is worthy Helen's baleful auspices. And now must I still further harm inflict upon the prostrate Trojans? 'Tis my part to feign Polyxena, the royal maid, is bid to be our Grecian Pyrrhus' wife, and deck her in the garb of Grecian brides. So by my artful words shall she be snared, and by my craft shall Paris' sister fall. But let her be deceived, 'tis better so. To die without the shrinking fear of death is joy indeed. But why dost thou delay thy bidden task? If aught of sin there be, 'tis his who doth command thee to the deed.
Helen to Polyxena.
O maiden, born of Priam's noble stock, the gods begin to look upon thy house in kinder mood, and even now prepare to grant thee happy marriage, such a mate as neither Troy herself in all her power nor royal Priam could have found for thee. For lo, the flower of the Pelasgian lords, whose sway Thessalia's far extending plains acknowledge, seeks thy hand in lawful wedlock. Great Tethys waits to claim thee for her own, and Thetis, whose majestic deity doth rule the swelling sea and all the nymphs who dwell within its depths. As Pyrrhus' bride thou shalt be called the child of Peleus old, and Nereus the divine. Then change the garb of thy captivity for festal robes, and straight forget that thou wast ever a slave. Thy wild dishevelled locks confine, permit that I with skilful hands adorn thy head. This chance, mayhap, shall place thee on a throne more lofty far than ever Priam saw. The captive's lot full oft a blessing proves.
This was the one thing lacking to our woes, that they should bid us smile when we would weep. See there, our city lies in smouldering heaps, a fitting time to talk of marriages. But who would dare refuse, when Helen bids? Who would not hasten to the wedding rites? Thou common curse of Greeks and Trojans too, thou fatal scourge, thou wasting pestilence, dost thou behold where buried heroes lie? And dost thou see those poor unburied bones that everywhere lie whitening on the plain? This desolation hath thy marriage wrought. For thee the blood of Asia flowed, for thee did Europe's heroes bleed, whilst thou, well pleased, didst look abroad upon the warring kings who perished in thy cause, thou faithless jade. There, get thee gone, prepare thy marriages. What need of torches for the solemn rites? What need of fire? Troy's self shall furnish forth the ruddy flames to light her latest bride. Then come, my sisters, come and celebrate Lord Pyrrhus' nuptial day in fitting wise. With groans and wailing let the scene resound.
Though mighty grief is ne'er by reason swayed, and oft the very comrades of its woe, unreasoning hates, yet can I bear to stand and plead my cause before a hostile judge, for I have suffered heavier ills than these. Behold, Andromache doth Hector mourn, and Hecuba her Priam. Each may claim the public sympathy, but Helena alone must weep for Paris secretly. Is slavery's yoke so heavy and so hard to bear? This grievous yoke have I endured, 10 years a captive. Doth your Ilium lie in dust, your gods o'erthrown? I know 'tis hard to lose one's native land, but harder still to fear the land that gave you birth. Your woes are lightened by community of grief, but friend and foe are foes alike to me. Long since the fated lot has hung in doubt, that sorts you to your lords, but I alone, without the hand of fate, am claimed at once. Think you that I have been the cause of war, and Troy's great overthrow? Believe it true, if in a Spartan vessel I approached your land, but if sped on by Phrygian oars, I came a helpless prey. If to the judge of beauty's rival claims I fell the prize, by conquering Venus' gift, then pity me, the plaything of the fates. An angry judge full soon my cause shall have, my Grecian lord, then leave to him the question of my guilt, and judge me not. But now forget thy woes, a little space, Andromache, and bid this royal maid. But as I think on her, my tears unbidden flow.
Helen stops, overcome by emotion. Andromache in scorn.
How great indeed must be the evil when our Helen weeps! But dry thy tears, and tell what Ithacus is plotting now, what latest deed of shame. Must this poor maid be hurled from Ida's heights, or from the top of Ilium's citadel? Must she be flung into the cruel sea that roars beneath this lofty precipice, which Arsigium's rugged crag uprears? Come tell, what thou dost hide with mimic grief. In all our ills, there's none so great as this, that any princess of our royal house should wed with Pyrrhus. Speak thy dark intent. What further suffering remains to bear? To compensate our woes, disgrace and part, that we may know the worst that can befall. Behold us ready for the stroke of fate.
Alas, I would 'twere mine to break the bonds which bind me to this life I hate, to die by Pyrrhus' cruel hand upon the tomb of great Achilles, and to share thy fate. O poor Polyxena, for even now the ghost doth bid that thou be sacrificed, and that thy blood be spilt upon his tomb, that thus thy parting soul may mate with his, within the borders of Elysium.
Andromache, observing the joy with which Polyxena receives these tidings.
Behold, her soul leaps up with mighty joy at thought of death. She seeks the festal robes wherewith to deck her for the bridal rites, and yields her golden locks to Helen's hands, who late accounted wedlock worse than death, now hails her death with more than bridal joy.
Andromache, observing Hecuba.
But see, her mother stands amazed with woe, her spirit staggers neath the stroke of fate.
Andromache to Hecuba.
Arise, O wretched queen, stand firm in soul, and gird thy fainting spirit up.
Hecuba falls fainting.
Behold, by what a slender thread her feeble life is held to earth. How slight the barrier now, that doth remove our Hecuba from joy. But no, she breathes, alas, she lives again, for from the wretched death is first to flee.
Hecuba reviving.
Still dost thou live, Achilles, for our bane? Dost still prolong the bitter strife? O Paris, thine arrow should have dealt a deadlier wound. For see, the very ashes and the tomb of that insatiate chieftain still do thirst for Trojan blood. But lately did a throng of happy children press me round, and I with fond endearment, and the sweet caress that mother love would shower upon them all, was oft forspent. But now this child alone is left, my comrade, comfort of my woes, for whom to pray, in whom to rest my soul. Hers are the only lips still left to me to call me mother. Poor unhappy soul, why dost thou cling so stubbornly to life? O speed thee out, and grant me death at last, the only boon I seek. Behold, I weep, and from my cheeks, o'erwhelmed with sympathy, a sudden rain of grieving tears descends.
We, Hecuba, oh, we should most be mourned, whom soon the fleet shall scatter o'er the sea, while she shall rest beneath the soil she loves.
Still more wouldst thou begrudge thy sister's lot, if thou didst know thine own.
Remains there still some punishment that I must undergo?
The whirling urn hath given you each her lord.
To whom hath fate allotted me a slave? Proclaim the chief whom I must call my lord.
To Pyrrhus hast thou fallen by the lot.
O happy maid Cassandra, blessed of heaven, for by thy madness art thou held exempt from fate that makes us chattels to the Greeks.
Not so, for even now the Grecian king doth hold her as his prize.
Hecuba to Polyxena.
Rejoice, my child. How gladly would thy sisters change their lot for thy death-dooming marriage.
Hecuba to Helen.
Tell me now, does any Greek lay claim to Hecuba?
The Ithacan, though much against his will, hath gained by lot a short-lived prize in thee.
What cruel, ruthless providence hath given a royal slave to serve unkingly men? What hostile god divides our captive band? What heartless arbiter of destiny so carelessly allots our future lords that Hector's mother is assigned to him who hath by favor gained the accursed arms which laid my Hector low? And must I then obey the Ithacan? Now conquered quite, alas, and doubly captive do I seem, and sore beset by all my woes at once. Now must I blush, not for my slavery, but for my master's sake. Yet Ithaca, that barren land by savage seas beset, shall not receive my bones. Then up, Ulysses, and lead thy captive home. I'll not refuse to follow thee as lord, for well I know that my untoward fates shall follow me. No gentle winds shall fill thy homeward sails, but stormy blasts shall rage, destructive wars and fires, and Priam's evil fates and mine shall haunt thee everywhere. But even now, while yet those ills delay, hast thou received some punishment. For I usurped thy lot, and stole thy chance to win a fairer prize.
Enter Pyrrhus.
But see, with hurried step and lowering brow, stern Pyrrhus comes.
Hecuba to Pyrrhus.
Why dost thou hesitate? Come, pierce my vitals with thy impious sword, and join the parents of Achilles' bride. Make haste, thou murderer of aged men. My blood befits thee too.
Hecuba pointing to Polyxena.
Away with her. Defile the face of heaven with murder's stain, defile the shades. But why make prayer to you? I'll rather pray the sea whose savage rage befits these bloody rites, the self-same doom which, for my ship, I pray and prophesy. May that befall the 1,000 ships of Greece, and so may evil fate engulf them all.
Chorus.
'Tis sweet for one in grief to know that he but feels a common woe, and lighter falls the stroke of care, which all with equal sorrow bear. For selfish and malign is human grief, which in the tears of others finds relief. Remove all men to fortune born, and none will think himself forlorn. Remove rich acres spreading wide, with grazing herds on every side. Straight will the poor man's drooping soul revive, for none are poor if all in common thrive. The mariner his fate bewails, who in a lonely vessel sails, and, losing all his scanty store, with life alone attains the shore. But with a stouter heart the gale he braves, that sinks 1,000 ships beneath the waves. When Phrixus fled in days of old upon the ram with fleece of gold, His sister Hele with him fared, and all his exiled wanderings shared. But when she fell and left him quite alone, then nothing could for Hele's loss atone. Not so they wept, that fabled pair, Deucalion and Pyrrha fair, when midst the boundless sea they stood, the sole survivors of the flood. For though their lot was hard and desolate, they shared their sorrow, 'twas a common fate. Too soon our grieving company shall scatter on the rolling sea, where swelling sails and bending oars shall speed us on to distant shores. Oh, then how hard shall be our wretched plight, when far away our country lies, and round us heaving billows rise, and lofty Ida's summit sinks from sight. Then mother shall her child embrace, and point with straining eyes the place where Ilium's smouldering ruins lie, far off beneath the eastern sky. See there, my child, our Trojan ashes glow, where wreathing smoke in murky clouds the distant dim horizon shrouds, and by that sign alone our land we know.
End of Act 4. Act 5 of Troades by Lucius Annaeus Seneca, translated by Frank Justus Miller. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Act 5. Messenger entering.
O cruel fate! O piteous, horrible! What sights so fell and bloody have we seen in 10 long years of war? Between thy woes, Andromache, and thine, O Hecuba, I halt, and know not which to weep the more.
Weep whosoe'er thou wilt, thou weepest mine. While others bow beneath their single cares, I feel the weight of all. All die to me. Whatever grief there is Hecuba's.
The maid is slain, the boy dashed from the walls, but each has met his death with royal soul.
Expound the deed in order, and display the twofold crime. My mighty grief is fain to hear the gruesome narrative entire. Begin thy tale, and tell it as it was.
One lofty tower of fallen Troy is left, well known to Priam, on whose battlements he used to sit and view his warring hosts. Here in his arms his grandson he would hold with kind embrace, and bid the lad admire his father's warlike deeds upon the field, where Hector, armed with fire and sword, pursued the frightened Greeks. Around this lofty tower which lately stood, the glory of the walls, but now a lonely crag, the people poor, a motley, curious throng of high and low. For some, a distant hill gives open view, while others seek a cliff, upon whose edge the crowd in tiptoed expectation stand. The beech tree, laurel, pine, each has its load, the whole wood bends beneath its human fruit. One climbs a smoldering roof, unto another a crumbling wall precarious footing gives, while others, shameless, stand on Hector's tomb. Now, through the thronging crowd with stately tread Ulysses makes his way, and by the hand he leads the little prince of Ilium. With equal pace the lad approached the wall, but when he reached the lofty battlement he stood and gazed around with dauntless soul. And as the savage lion's tender young, its fangless jaws all powerless to harm, still snaps with helpless wrath and swelling heart, so he, though held in that strong foeman's grasp, stood firm, defiant. Then the crowd of men and leaders and Ulysses' self were moved. But he alone wept not of all the throng who wept for him. And now Ulysses spake, in priestly wise, the words of fate, and prayed, and summoned to the right the savage gods, when suddenly, on self-destruction bent, the lad sprang o'er the turret's edge and plunged into the depths below.
What Chaldean, what wandering Scythian, what lawless race that dwells by Caspia's sea, could do or dare a crime so hideous? No blood of helpless children ever stained Busiris' altars, monster though he was, nor did the horses of the Thracian king e'er feed on tender limbs. Where is my boy, who now will take and lay him in the tomb?
Alas, my lady, how can aught remain from such a fall, but broken scattered bones, dismembered limbs, and all those noble signs in face and feature of his royal birth, confused and crushed upon the ragged ground? Who was thy son, lies now a shapeless corse.
Thus also is he like his noble sire.
When headlong from the tower the lad had sprung, and all the Grecian throng bewailed the crime which it had seen and done, that self-same throng returned to witness yet another crime upon Achilles' tomb. The seaward side is beaten by Rhotium's lapping waves, while on the other sides a level space, and rounded, gently sloping hills beyond encompass it and make a theatre. Here rush the multitude, and fill the place with eager throngs. A few rejoice that now their homeward journey's long delay will end, and that another prop of fallen Troy is stricken down, but all the common herd look on in silence at the crime they hate. The Trojans, too, attend the sacrifice, and wait with quaking hearts the final scene of Ilium's fall, when suddenly there shone the gleaming torches of the wedding march, and as the bride's attendant Helen came with drooping head. Whereat the Trojans prayed, "Oh, may Hermione be wed like this, with bloody rites. Like this may Helena return unto her lord." Then numbing dread seized Greeks and Trojans all, as they beheld the maid. She walked with downcast, modest eyes, but on her face a wondrous beauty glowed in flaming splendor, as the setting sun lights up the sky with beams more beautiful when day hangs doubtful on the edge of night. All gazed in wonder. Some her beauty moved, and some her tender age and hapless fate, but all her dauntless courage in the face of death. Behind the maid grim Pyrrhus came, and as they looked, the souls of all were filled with quaking terror, pity, and amaze. But when she reached the summit of the mound and stood upon the lofty sepulchre, still with unfaltering step the maid advanced. And now she turned her to the stroke of death, with eyes so fierce and fearless that she smote the hearts of all, and wondrous prodigy in Pyrrhus' bloody hand was slow to strike. But soon, his right hand lifted to the stroke, he drove the weapon deep within her breast, and straight from that deep wound the blood burst forth in sudden streams. But still the noble maid did not give o'er her bold and haughty mien, though in the act of death. For in her fall she smote the earth with angry violence, as if to make it heavy for the dead. Then flowed the tears of all. The Trojans groaned with secret woe, since fear restrained their tongues. But openly the victors voiced their grief. And now the savage rite was done. The blood stood not upon the ground, nor flowed away, but downward all its ruddy stream was sucked, as if the tomb were thirsty for the draught.
Now go, ye Greeks, and seek your homes in peace. With spreading sails your fleet in safety now may cleave the welcome sea. The maid and boy are slain. the war is done. Whither now shall I betake me in my wretchedness? Where spend this hateful remnant of my life? My daughter or my grandson shall I mourn? My husband, country, or myself alone? O death, my sole desire, for boys and maids thou comest with hurried step and savage mien. But me alone of mortals dost thou fear and shun. Through all that dreadful night of Troy I sought thee midst the swords and blazing brands, but all in vain my search. No cruel foe, nor crumbling wall, nor blazing fire could give the death I sought. And yet how near I stood to aged Priam's side when he was slain.
Ye captives, haste you to the winding shore. The sails are spread, our long delay is o'er.
End of Act 5. End of Troades by Lucius Annaeus Seneca, translated by Frank Justus Miller.